Record Skool is all about using records, vinyl, the vinyl from my collection, to go deep and understand what's happening in the world from my point of view and to make connections. We'll talk about either technology or image or both. This the sound effects are actually are on the record. The sound effects are on the record. This is Bobby Digital. He likes to say it's not just me making that up. This is an album called Digital Bullet. This is the second album from Bobby Digital. The first one is a little bit. The first one is better. If you have a Bobby Digital album, the first one is better. But this is RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan, recording under his alias Bobby Digital, who is a character in the present slash future. This is kind of an Afrofuturistic look, definitely, because it's based on comic books and that kind of aesthetic. Also, the technology, the sound of it is quite futuristic as well, even though the first one had more of innovative use of technology than the second one. The first one used a lot of crazy keyboard sounds, and there's a lot. It was more abstract. This one is not as good, but the cover is quite interesting, and it's a very Afrofuturistic cover. Maybe Bobby Digital here could hang out with Black Panther in Wakanda. Here we go. This is an example of technology being used to propel us to the future, propel black music into a futuristic space. This is Prince Jammy's dub record, and it's actually based. It's a play on Space Invaders, so it does have a futuristic look. That's quite obvious. But if you think of dub music, Prince Jammy's, King Tubby, and definitely Lee Scratch Perry, they use technology. They use dub frequencies such in effects like reverb and echo to change reggae music and propel it into a new direction, which ended up being responsible for drum and bass, for house, for dancehall, for EDM. All those types of technologies are pioneered by these gentlemen here. And the result is this kind of thing. This is Major Lazer, the first album. What do you call it? Guns don't kill people, lasers kill people. This is an album produced by Diplo and Switch, who are dance EDM producers, and they work with dancehall artists on this album, such as Future Trouble, Mr. Vegas, and most famously Vibes Cartel, to make very different kind of sounding dancehall songs, okay? Such as the most famous one is Hold the Line, where they just take interesting samples and put them over fast drum beats and let the dancehall artists do their thing. But there's a track on here called where is it? Which one is it? Can't Stop Now, featuring Miss Vegas and Jovi Rockwell. That's a straight up dub track. It could be from a Prince Jammy's album or a King Tubby album or a Scientist album. Let's stay in the past for a moment. So probably the most influential artist in black music that maybe can be credited as looking into the future, thinking about space, and combining those thoughts and ideas with jazz and funk music is Sun Ra. This is my one Sun Ra album, aptly titled Cosmos, but Sun Ra, as well as Earth, Wind, and Fire, combined Egyptology, Kemetic science, Kemetic knowledge, Afrocentrism with futuristic ideas and science fiction. So most of the images, this is an interesting one because you don't get to see what Sun Ra looks like. Take a look at Sun Ra and you will know what I'm talking about. So we would say Sun Ra is probably one of the most influential artists in Afrofuturism. This album, my wife said I should talk about, the sounds, right? Talk about the songs, talk about the music. This is not one of my favorite Sun Ra albums. It's pretty chill. Moonship Journey is a good song. It's kind of a, there's a chant. It's got a kind of a walking, swinging bass line. Sun Ra and some of the other artists in the band are like, come and join on the Moonship Journey. Journey on the Moonship. It's a nice kind of fun jazz track. Some of the other songs on this album are quite abstract. So that's why it's not one of my favorite albums, but you know, it's very important for me to have some Sun Ra in my collection. Shout out to Aki from Cosmos, because I think he named his store after this album. This is a reissue. I think Aki has the an original pressing of this. So shout out to Aki. Now, Sun Ra, one other artist I would argue is also one of the most influential pioneers of looking to space, looking to the future, playing with science fiction and Afrofuturistic aesthetics in his music. Anybody? Can anyone raise their hand and tell me who they think it is? Anyone? I'll give you a moment. Exactly. George Clinton. You were exactly right. George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic is probably one of the other most influential artists. Thank God he's still living today. Let's give a moment of silence and gratitude that George Clinton is still alive with us. We're so pleased. So George Clinton, with his work of Parliament Funkadelic, Dr. Funkenstein, Sir Nose, and the Mothership, were all talking about funk from a perspective of space travel, other characters, alternate universes, and a lot of really fun stuff, which is, one example of Afrofuturism. Depending on the artist, it can be used for fun, it can be used for serious exploration, it can be used for a combination of two. So we want to give a shout out to George Clinton and a shout out to Sun Ra for being some of the pioneers of Afrofuturism. Let's talk about some of the new stuff, okay? Who are some of the artists that have picked up the torch from George Clinton and Sun Ra? Here's somebody. What about our brother Kanye West? I'm not going to show you a Kanye album right now. I'm going to show you this book that I have, because this is Record School and we read our books. This is the Glow in the Dark Tour book. I never got to go on the Glow in the Dark Tour. I wish I had, but I have this book here. This is kind of, Kanye carrying the torch from George Clinton. And let me put them both together. Look at that. It's Kanye carrying the torch from George Clinton. If you go on YouTube, look at the George Clinton concert. It's called the P-Funk Earth Tour. They have a giant pyramid with an eyeball in it, and they have spaceships coming down to the stage. But this was in 1978, I believe. Kanye did the same thing with a Kanye budget, and he's got space women, aliens, and it's the same kind of thing. This is a very Afrofuturistic look that he created. He worked with Rihanna. He worked with Pharrell. He created costumes, and this is him doing what he does. So that's one example. Another example is Outcast. Now, I would say the most Afrofuturistic album that they put out is probably Aquemini, which came in between these two. This is Elevators from AT-Aliens, and this is Stankonia. Aquemini is somewhere upstairs. However, this one last thing I'll talk about is the use of technology to create a new sound. So on Aquemini, there's a song called Synthesizer, where Outcast and George Clinton are talking about the future of technology being quite ominous for everybody in a lot of different ways. That's kind of the message. In this case, the sound is used to push things forward on this album, because this album features Bombs Over Baghdad. And that was probably the most left field, groundbreaking, different sounding hit record that Outkast ever put out, because it had 808s and 808 beats that were super fast, about 120 BPMs, and no one expected that. But that's kind of them always looking to the future, and they never stopped doing that. But I want us to make sure we can trace where all of this amazing art comes from and what it's rooted into. The roots of the Outkast sound So once you get this and you get Bombs Over Baghdad, you have to give props to this. These two records here This is where it comes from. This kind of stuff. So Def Bass All Stars. Pimps, Players, and Hustlers. You might look at these records and say, what is this kind of ridiculous looking, goofy albums? These are Miami bass albums. All the songs are, they have trap, not trap, they have 808 drum kits, they're fast, they're for dancing and booty shaking and riding in the cars. The same sounds and the same 808 drums that are now ubiquitous in trap music and also pop music come from this. And then Outcast, being from Atlanta, took those style of drums and they made Bombs Over Baghdad, and that's where that comes from. Now, even deeper, we have to also pay homage to, let's say, Baba Olatunji, because this is where the drums come from, right? And this is what gives us Afrofuturism, but this is where it all started from, okay? And I think that's kind of about it. I wanted to give credit to another artist who has always taken technology and put it into a future way. We have to always find a way to pay homage to Detroit, Michigan. So Jay Dilla is one where he was considered ahead of his time, not necessarily looking towards the future in such an obvious way as these gentlemen, but taking technology and doing brand new things with it. So we have Juan Atkins here, one of the inventors of techno music, and we have Jay Dilla here, both from Detroit, one of the most innovative producers in hip hop. And I think we can put them in the Afrofuturism discussion. And that's about it. That's about it. Just gonna show you a couple cool records here because this is an example of how we've also looked at the past for inspiration, and I think that's an interesting thing to make sure we are. This is KRS-One, who is remaking the Malcolm X By Any Means Necessary photo from the By All Means Necessary BDP album cover. Afrofuturism, the black presence identity in the future in science fiction. T'Challa, did you like what I said? Yes. What album do you like the most? Han Solo? He said, I like the Outcast album. Cool. And let's not forget... What? What'd you say? Oh, he told me don't forget the ladies. Of course. There are so many women who are pioneering Afrofuturism in their music. But right now, I just want to give shout-outs to Janelle, Monae, and Erykah Badu. Yay! Please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Record School. This is DJ Spin So Nice. Peace.